Okay, good afternoon everyone. Today we're going to be making some fresh pasta from scratch. So I've got all the ingredients laid out here, ready to go. As we talked about in class, your basic ratio for fresh pasta is 1 cup of flour and 2 eggs. So I just want to point out the ingredients that we have here. So we're going to be using 2 different types of flour today. So I have all-purpose flour here. Of course, this is semolina flour here. And then we've got a couple pinches of kosher salt, a tablespoon of olive oil, or any kind of oil. And then we have our 2 eggs. If you notice over here, I have a little bit extra flour in case the dough is sticky, and then I have a little bit of water in case the pasta dough is too dry. And I think we actually have a question from someone in the audience. Let's see if we can answer that.
Hey, Chef Short Sleeve, what's the difference between all-purpose flour and semolina? Hey, put your phone away, man. Hey, did you check out my TikTok video? I had 1 million hits on it.
Well, Chef, it's pretty cool to hear your video went viral, but let's answer your question. So, all-purpose flour comes from a combination of both soft wheat and hard wheat, and it's ground together during the milling process. And of course, you can find both types of flour, such as bleached and unbleached. It does contain about 10 to 12% protein, and a lot of times nutrients have to be added back in because they are removed when you take off the bran layer. But let's take a look at what semolina flour is. Now, semolina flour actually comes from a different type of wheat called durum wheat, which makes up about 5 to 8% of the world's cultivated wheat population. What's nice about semolina, obviously, it's a little darker than all-purpose flour, kind of has a yellow color to it, definitely a little bit more earthy aroma. And it is used around the world, but is definitely very popular in Italy.
Okay, so to make the fresh pasta, we're going to start by mixing the 2 flours together in the well. So we're going to mix these together. And if you notice, I'm doing this inside of a mixing bowl. And this is something that I learned early on, because if your well breaks, this way your egg won't run all over the table, at least it'll stay inside the bowl. Okay, so we're going to put our flour together, and then we're going to make a big hole in the middle. And this is where we're going to put obviously the eggs. Okay, so in here I have 2 eggs, cracked 2 large eggs, and you want to mix these up a little bit before you put them in. It's going to go right into the middle of the well. Let's make this well just a little bit bigger. So we have some room to work. Okay, so there's our 2 eggs to our 1 cup of flour. Remember that ratio. Then we're going to add in the oil, a little bit of salt. Okay, and if you remember, this is what we're going to do. Basically, we're going to take a little bit of flour, and we're going to slowly mix it into the well. Go around, knock some flour in, and mix it up. You can take from the outside, down to the bottom, you can take from the top, whatever you need to do. Okay, and then also, this would be a good time if you're going to be adding in any flavor ingredients to your fresh pasta. This would be the time. So an example might be a little bit of crushed red pepper if you want a little bit of spice to it. If you wanted to do a spinach pasta, you would add in a little bit of cooked spinach, and then you take that spinach and just puree it up a little bit. Okay, so go around, add more flour. have another question from the audience? Sure, go ahead.
Chef, what are the 4 parts of the grain again? Hey, get up, chef's coming.
Well, that's a great question, Chef Zidanist. You asked what the 4 parts of the kernel of wheat are. So here's a picture showing the 3 insides. These are the edible portions. There is one more part that's not listed, and that is called the hull layer, and that actually completely surrounds the kernel of wheat, and that needs to be taken off before you can consume the 3 parts that you see here. So the 3 parts that we see are the bran layer, the endosperm layer, and the germ layer. The bran layer is the layer that is on the outside and makes up about 14.5% of the weight. This is where you're going to find the vitamins and the minerals and the fiber. And if you consume anything whole wheat wise, whole wheat flour, that means the bran layer has been left on. If you were to remove the bran layer and the germ layer, which is a very small percentage of the weight, it's really basically the sprouting section. If you were to remove that and the bran layer, you end up with the endosperm layer, which is about 83% of the weight, and this is what makes white flour. Inside the endosperm is where we find protein and carbohydrates and a little bit of iron and a few other major vitamins. Okay, so whole wheat flour, you have the bran, the endosperm, and the germ. If you remove the bran layer and the germ, you end up with endosperm, and that gives you white flour.
Okay, at this point here, I'm going to go ahead and bring this out onto the table to finish it off so we can do the kneading process. We're going to start to see the dough come together, and then we can make a decision if we need to add a little more flour, a little more water, or if we got it exactly right. And of course, there's many variabilities of why the flour may absorb more liquid than not, such as humidity, the way it was milled, where it was grown, all sorts of things. Okay, so at this point here, we're going to start to bring this together. We're going to start the kneading process. We want to try to get everything we can off of this table here so it all comes together in the correct amount. Alright, now you can see this dough is a little bit sticky. This is why I have the extra flour here. So I'm going to take just a little bit of that flour, put that on there, and then we're going to work this in and see if we can't get some of the stickiness to go away. It's starting to come together pretty nice. Let's see if I can get the rest of the stuff off of my finger into the dough. And you see, if you do it right, you should be able to gather up pretty much everything that's on the table. And then we're going to start the kneading process. Now, it's still a little bit on the sticky side. So, add just a pinch more flour to it. Remember, just add a little bit at a time. There, now you can kind of tell the dough feels good. It's not sticking to my fingers anymore. Okay, and at this point now we're going to knead it for a couple of minutes because we want to get it to be nice and smooth. Okay, I'm sure you remember the kneading process, but if not, we're using the palm of our hands and pushing forward. It is still a little sticky. A little bit of flour. Okay, so I'm kneading with the palm of my hand, pushing forward, pulling back with my fingers. Push forward, pull back. Okay, same thing, you can switch up hands. I'm also kind of pushing it forward and twisting a little bit. Okay, you see though it's starting to come together nice. It's got a nice sheen to it from the oil. Nice and smooth. That's exactly what we want right there. You can't over knead this pasta, so you keep going until you think you got it right. But it's looking pretty good to me. Just a little tackiness to it, which we want. It's not sticking to my fingers anymore. It's nice and smooth. That's what we want right there. Okay, so we'll put it together in a little ball. Didn't need the water, we got lucky. And then what we're going to do is wrap it in a little plastic. We're going to let it rest for at least 20 minutes. And leave it out at room temperature so it's right at the table. In the meantime, we get it cleaned up, wiped down, and then when we come back, I'm going to show you how to roll it out by hand.
Okay, so we've given our pasta at least a good 20 minutes to rest and allow the gluten to relax a little bit, so it should make it a little bit easier for us to roll it out. I've got a bench scraper with me just in case I need it, and if you don't have one, that's okay. You don't have to have it. Now, normally when we roll out the pasta, we'd have the pasta machines here at the school. Most of you probably don't have one at home, so we're just going to roll it out by hand, and I'm going to accomplish that with a rolling pin. And then if I want to try to make it a little bit more consistent, you can find something around your house that is fairly thin and has a straight edge on it. So I grabbed a ruler, that could be an example, or whatever you might have around your house. I've got my pan to put it on when it's done with some flour that we'll need. And then you're going to need a way to cut it. If you have a pizza cutter at your house, use that. This one actually has a beveled edge and a straight edge, so this can make the pasta look a little nicer, kind of a ribbon thing. If you don't have a pizza cutter, you could just use a regular chef knife. Okay, so let's get started. So we'll take our pasta, and my suggestion is you're probably going to want to split this in half at the minimum, maybe even thirds or quarters. Okay, but we'll put a little bit of flour down to make it easier. Keep this off to the side, and I'm going to split this in half for right now. Get plenty of flour on here to help with the rolling process. And then from here, we're just going to roll it out. Okay, so we'll start with my fingers kind of pushing down, like if you were making a pizza. And then it's just basically the process of rolling it out. If you notice that it's get a little bit sticky, put a little bit more flour on there. Okay, obviously it's much easier and much faster if you have a pasta roller, but we don't all have that luxury, so we're going to go a little bit more old school with this and get this rolled out, and then periodically come on over and check. Okay, so that's actually about where I want it to be. But I think I'm going to go just a little bit thinner with the pasta. You want to kind of go thin with this. Don't want to make it too thick. But you see, I'm trying to keep it like to emulate what would be in the pasta machine, right? Long, thin sheet of pasta. We're pretty close. I don't think we're going to need to go much further here. All right, so that's pretty thin. It's actually thinner than my my guide, which is actually good. So, and this looks like a sheet of pasta that you'd pull out of the pasta machine. Okay, so what we're going to make is a shape that's called tagliatelle. And what's kind of cool about this is you can make it as perfect or as imperfect as you want. So we can approach this two ways. If I'm at home, I'm probably not going to do this, but if I'm in the restaurant and I want to make this look really good, you can go through here and you can trim this up so it's even. Okay, so I'm actually going to use the ruffled edges, and we'll kind of go about here. Okay, now when you do this, just remember though that now I've got to come back and I got to roll this out all over again. Okay, so we'll set this over here, and then we'll trim this side off. And if you want to make it super perfect, you can kind of go down here and make a nice straight edge on both sides. Okay, now if we're doing raviolis, this would be the point where you take your ravioli filling and you put little dots right here, just like this. And then you roll out another sheet of pasta. You put down some water in the spaces in between where the filling is, and then you're going to push down around the filling to seal all of the raviolis, and then you just cut them into the shape. Okay, or another way you can do it is you can just put the filling here and take this side and fold it over. Make sure you put the water down, push it down, and then you can just cut them. Okay, so you can go either way. Now for the tagliatelle, what we're going to do is we're going to cut it into thick strips. So I'm actually going to make this real easy. I'm going to make one strip down the middle, and then I'm going to split those in half. Okay, and so this is tagliatelle, very thick, almost the size of the lasagna noodles, a very thick, very long piece of pasta. So we're going to put this on here, put a little bit of flour down, just to make sure they don't stick. And you can actually keep these rolled out just like they are when you put them down. Okay, and put them right next to each other. Try not to let them touch. And then you can just put another layer of parchment paper down. Just put a lot of flour down, and you can go the opposite way or even on top if you're going to use them right away. Now, what's good about the pasta is that you can make this one day and then put it into the freezer just like this. Then when you're ready to actually make your dish, you can take right from the freezer and put it right into your boiling water. So I'm going to finish up the other pasta, and then after this, we'll actually start making our sauce and get the pasta cooked and plate up our final dish. So real quick, I'm just going to show you me cutting up some vegetables in fast motion just so you can kind of see some of the prep I'm doing for our pasta primavera dish. Okay, so we have all the mise en place ready to go for our pasta primavera. So pasta primavera is basically vegetables and pasta, and then you can finish it however you want. We're gonna do it with a lemon, white wine, butter, Parmesan, cheese. That's gonna kind of make up the sauce. But let's go through the ingredients real quick. So over here for our vegetables, and what's great about this dish is that you can use any kind of vegetables that you want. So I've got carrots, I have red peppers, onion, zucchini, cherry tomatoes, and then I'm going to finish it with a little bit of baby spinach, and I also have a little bit of baby arugula that we'll put on the top. Also on here, I've got lemon for the sauce. I've got fresh garlic. Had some grilled asparagus left over from another dinner, so I'm going to add that in. I've got Parmesan cheese, butter, salt, fresh cracked black pepper, a little bit of white wine, and this is optional, do not have to do this, and olive oil. So let's get cooking. Okay, everyone, so here we go. We're going to start the cooking process. It's a little hard to get like a really good angle of me cooking just because the way that my kitchen is set up. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth from an overhead view and kind of me grabbing the ingredients. And as I go and I cook, you'll be able to see the overhead view. So we'll kind of make this happen the best that we can. All right, but anyways, let's get started cooking. So we're going to start off with a little bit of olive oil in the pan. And we're going to start with the vegetables that take a little bit longer to cook. And I've got a lot of veggies here because I'm actually making this for my dinner for my family tonight. So I'm just going to put a little bit in order to make this dish. So we'll start off with a little bit of onion and carrot and a little bit of red pepper. Those are the vegetables that are going to take a little bit longer to cook. So we'll let those cook down for a minute. And as you can see over here, I've got the pasta water ready to go. So we'll be dropping the pasta in once the veggies are moving along a little bit faster. Okay, so given maybe 5 minutes or so to cook some of the vegetables that take a little bit longer, the peppers, the onions, and the carrots. So now we're going to add in a little bit of zucchini. Just a little bit of fresh garlic. And a few cherry tomatoes. We're also going to add in a little bit of the cooked asparagus as well. And then we're going to let this cook for a couple more minutes. Once again, like I said, you can kind of add in any vegetables that you like. That's the great thing about this dish. It's very, very versatile. There is really no sauce per se. It can kind of be what you want it to be. You know, we're going to finish it with just a little butter and white wine. I mean, some people will do it with actually a little bit of cream in there. It's really kind of up to you how you want to do it. Okay, so cook the zucchini for a couple minutes. It's going to get soft when we start making the sauce, and we don't want to overdo everything else. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add in a wine. This is about, well, I don't need all of this, but this maybe about a quarter cup of wine or so. I'm using a little bit sweeter white wine. Once again, this is optional. You do not have to put it in. It's really up to you. So we're going to let that reduce down for a second. Okay, once that reduces down by about half or so, we're going to squeeze a little bit of fresh lime. We're going to add in our spinach. We'll season with salt and a little bit of black pepper. Okay, and we're getting near the end of this sauce, so I'm actually going to go ahead and drop the pasta in the water. Okay, so this is our pasta that we made a little earlier, the tagliatelle. We're going to drop this in. Okay, I've got boiling, very salted water, and we're going to only cook this for about 4 minutes. So you can set your timer for about 4 minutes when you do the fresh pasta. Okay, and I've got roughly 3 to 4 times the amount of water that I do of pasta, just so you get a rough idea. Okay, we're going to let that cook. And then what we're going to do here is, you can see the liquid is just about gone, so we're going to actually turn the flame off. We're going to add in our butter, and we're going to kind of just let that gently emulsify into what we have just made, our reduction of the white wine and the lemon. Okay, so we're just going to kind of move that around a little bit, let that start to melt down. Okay, and of course, if you want to, so we're making a vegetarian dish. If you wanted to make this vegan, obviously you would have to make a pasta without the eggs in it, and you can do that with simply a little bit of oil and the flour and water. So that will work just well. And then we are also going to add in a little bit of Parmesan cheese to help make our sauce as well. Shred a little of that in there. We're going to keep this for the garnish as well. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to keep the cover on. Wait for our pasta to finish cooking. Okay, so it's been about 3 minutes, actually been more like 4 minutes, and the pasta is looking pretty good. So what we're going to do is uncover, and our sauce is ready to go. So I'm going to bring this right over next to the pasta, turn that off, and I want to take this out and get it right into my pan. Okay, no cooling it down, nothing like that. We're going to mix this up, and then we're going to plate it. Don't forget to check your seasoning before you serve. Okay, so we're ready to plate up. We've got our finished pasta Primavera. Going to top it with a little baby arugula and a little bit of fresh Parmesan cheese and a little bit more cracked black pepper. So what we'll do is we'll start off by putting our pasta down. So I've just got a simple white plate here. I'm going to grab the pasta, and when I do so, what I want to do is kind of twist it a little bit. Hopefully that will help give it a little bit of height. Okay, so we're going to put that down, and as you come up, just try to twist a little bit This pasta is kind of thick, so it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. Okay, and keep in mind some of the things we've talked about. We want to have some white space around the outside of the plate. We definitely want to have some height. Okay, we have these amazing colors with the different vegetables in here, so we want to make sure that we get those in here as well. Show those off. Put those right on the top. Just let everything kind of fall where it go. You can always come back and readjust it later on if need be. And then we want to make sure we get all of our sauce out of here. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little bit more Parmesan cheese. Kind of let that fall once again where it falls. A couple grinds of black pepper. And then we'll finish it off with a little baby arugula. This is a really peppery, almost mustardy kind of lettuce. If you want, you can take a little bit and just toss it in a little bit of balsamic vinegar to give it a little bit more flavor. But I'm just going to put a little bit on top like this. Can add some height, add a little bit of pepper. And there we have it.